Fright Night, 1985, is one of those classic 80s B-horror films that combines horror, comedy, and a lot of fun, with a bit of nostalgia thrown in. It was directed by Tom Holland, who later went on to direct Child's Play, and it's a love letter to classic vampire movies while giving it a bit of a modern, for its time, twist. Plot: the movie centers around Charlie Brewster, played by William Ragsdale, a typical suburban teen who spends his nights watching late-night horror TV shows, especially Fright Night, a cheesy horror movie program hosted by the equally cheesy Peter Vincent, Roddy McDowall. Things take a turn for the strange when Charlie begins to suspect that his new next-door neighbor, Jerry Dandridge, Chris Sarandon, might actually be a vampire. Naturally, nobody believes him. So Charlie teams up with the reluctant Vincent to take on Dandridge and his supernatural powers. Characters: Charlie Brewster. Charlie is your everyday teenager, kind of awkward, but also someone with a strong sense of justice when it comes to protecting his loved ones. William Ragsdale plays him with just the right balance of teen angst and determination. Jerry Dandridge. Chris Sarandon is fantastic as the charming yet deadly vampire Jerry. He exudes a cool, seductive aura that makes him a more than convincing threat. The smooth performance contrasts well with his more monstrous side that emerges later in the film. Peter Vincent. Roddy McDowall's portrayal of the washed-up actor turned reluctant vampire hunter is absolutely one of the film's highlights. He's a total hoot and provides some of the film's best moments, offering both laughs and genuine tension. Amy Peterson, played by Amanda Bearse, Charlie's girlfriend, who eventually becomes a pivotal part of the story, especially when Jerry takes an interest in her. Themes: at its core, Fright Night plays with a lot of classic horror tropes, while also poking fun at them. It's both a love letter to the vampire genre and a send-up of it. The film explores themes of adolescence, with Charlie's fear of growing up and leaving behind his childhood obsessions like monster movies. It also touches on the idea of confronting your fears, as Charlie has to overcome both his personal fears and the very real, supernatural threat next door. The theme of perception versus reality is also huge here. Charlie's initial obsession with the supernatural is brushed off by others, and the way the characters deal with the disbelief around them adds a layer of tension. It's like the world Charlie knows is slowly crumbling, and he has to fight to maintain some semblance of control. The special effects and horror. For an 80s horror movie, Fright Night has a good amount of practical effects, which is always a treat to see in films today. The transformation sequences of Jerry into a full-on vampire monster are still pretty impressive and stand out in an era where CGI wasn't as prevalent. The use of practical effects to bring the vampire lore to life, like the vampire turning into mist or the glorious headless moment, gives the film a timeless charm. The violence and scares, while not over the top, are effective, and it maintains a fun balance between horror and light comedy. It doesn't take itself too seriously, and that's part of the reason why it's so enjoyable. Comparisons to other films of the era. When Fright Night came out, it was competing in a crowded genre of 80s horror. The 80s were known for their over-the-top slasher films, so Fright Night offers a bit of a different flavor, balancing humor with horror. If you're looking for something along the lines of The Lost Boys, 1987, which also deals with young people encountering vampires, you'll find Fright Night's blend of dark comedy and suspenseful horror to be similarly appealing. The Monster Squad, 1987, is another one that mixes horror and comedy in a similar vein. There's also a bit of the Evil Dead in Fright Night, in how it uses practical effects and a certain level of campiness to make the horror fun and less scary, in a traditional sense. That mix of fear and fun really shines in Fright Night. The sequel and remakes. Interestingly, Fright Night did get a sequel, Fright Night Part 2, which was released in 1988, but didn't capture the same charm or success as the original. It's worth checking out if you're a fan of the first film, though it's much more of a cult follow-up. The movie also received a modern remake in 2011, starring Colin Farrell as Jerry, which brings the story into a more contemporary setting. While the remake isn't bad, the original's combination of 80s nostalgia, Roddy McDowall's performance and its playful tone makes it the definitive version in the eyes of many fans. Jackie's role in the 80s horror renaissance. This period of horror films also coincides with the rise of more mainstream horror, as seen with A Nightmare on Elm Street, Friday the 13th, and the Texas Chainsaw 2. The 80s saw a turn towards more self aware, slightly ridiculous horror, and Fright Night fits that mold while also being a genuine love letter to classic monster movies. Conclusion: in the end, Fright Night is a perfect mix of campy fun and genuine horror. The characters, particularly Jerry and Peter Vincent, bring charm to a genre that can sometimes get too bogged down in seriousness. It's an excellent choice for anyone who enjoys vampire films or horror comedies from the 80s.